Guys, what's going on today? Drinking my pre-workout, get ready to go in here and do some cardio. Thought I'd talk to you guys this morning. Do another live stream. You know how I try to do a live stream every Sunday. I don't always make it every Sunday because sometimes I'll be riding. Now when it gets warmer, I may have to do some of these in pre-record because we'll be riding a lot. I still ride during the winter. I probably ride more than most in this area. But that's neither here nor there. But that's a whole different subject. Today I want to talk about a sensitive subject, and I'm not calling anybody out, so before you get your feelings hurt, shove it, because you're supposed to be a motorcycle rider. You're supposed to be an outlaw, and you're supposed to be tough, so quit crying all the time. So here's the thing. You got in trouble. You got put on probate. Now, some clubs will do it differently. You know, some clubs will do probation. Some clubs will do prospect. Most of the time where I've seen it, if you're in a club and you're on probate, it's because you did something wrong. And that can happen to anybody. Now, in these bigger clubs, yes, it is harder for the officers to get put on probation. It's just the way it is. It's a big club. They got a lot of power. It's going to take a lot to get them knocked down to probate. That's just the truth of it. But you got knocked down to probate. You did something wrong. Somebody said you did something wrong. And now you're on probation. Now, to me, you got lucky. To me, like if they just didn't kick you out of the club and you got put on probation, it sucks, especially if you've been a full member already, and especially if you're holding an officer position. That really sucks. And here's the thing. If you're holding an officer position and you get knocked down to probate, there would be my opportunity to really show them that they screwed up. Because if you get down to probate and you're doing all the things at probate that other people don't do, and you've really got a good attitude and you're doing what you need to be doing, that's going to set an example for everybody else. In my philosophy, that's what I'm thinking. So why not do that? Now, I understand you may think, well, I'm not supposed to be that way. I wasn't supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be this. I'm supposed to be an officer. I did this. I started this. Doesn't matter. You got in trouble. And what's even worse is, let's say you're saying, okay, well, I helped start this club and I shouldn't be this way. Okay, you helped start this club. You're literally in trouble for rules that you created. You know what I mean? Anybody ever think about that? Like, you're literally in trouble for the rules that you created. Hey, Lily, how's it going? So why wouldn't you use this as an example to not do the things that you're doing during your probation period and show them how you're supposed to act? Like, I don't think people understand sometimes how they kind of show their true colors while they're on probation. Hey, Sunwest Global, how's it going? I'm doing great, Lily. I'm doing great. It's cold as heck here. It says 40, but if you look at the feels like is like 20. So it's pretty cold. But hey, guys, how's it going? But like I'm saying before, if you're an officer and you get in trouble and you're on probation in a club that maybe I'm not pointing anybody out, maybe you think about that. Do you know Stray Kids, the K-pop group? Of course I do. Felix is my favorite one. But anyway, But that would be an example. Like if I'm if I'm an officer or something like that, and I get in trouble and I get busted all the way down to probate, I would probably think about my actions, you know, for the reason maybe why I'm doing this, and maybe think about what I could do in the meantime to show everybody that I'm a better example, and this is why I should be in the group as a full patch. And I'm not saying like you have to go around washing people's cars and all that, or washing people's bikes and all that kind of stuff, you know, taking out the trash and everything, but maybe they need you to do that. And you need to get back to basics so that you can understand what it was like being in the club. Because maybe you didn't do that. Maybe you went straight in and started this club, and you need to understand what it means to be in a club. And see, there'll be a lot of times somebody will do something and maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe it wasn't that bad and you got in trouble and now you're on probation. Okay, then just wait for the time being and, you know, go back to full patch. But I find it very odd, you know, we're supposed to be in a motorcycle club. We're supposed to be outlaws. We're supposed to be the toughest of the tough, you know. That's the reason we're in this club, because we don't fit in the regular society, and that's why we're doing it. What's up? What's your name? Beerskin? What's going on, man? And we're getting our feelings hurt when we're getting in trouble and getting demoted. Like we're getting our feelings hurt. We're getting prideful. And I understand it sucks. Getting in trouble sucks, okay? Getting called out sucks. You know, you're riding the club with your buddies. Everybody thinks you're this badass. You're really up to, and maybe you are this badass. And then you got in trouble in front of everybody. You got called out. And now you're a probate, and now all your friends are walking around with these full patches on, and you got a probate cut on. It sucks. Like, you've got all these patches that you've earned. You've got the main patch on the back, and now you're riding around with this blank vest on with probate on the back. It sucks because it signals to the other clubs too, he did something wrong. And it's going to happen to me. I'm going to do something wrong. Now, I'm probably going to do less than others, but that's just the way I am. There's a couple of guys, like for example, there's a couple of guys that ride with me. They'll be the last ones to get in trouble. I can see this right now. They'll be the last ones to get in trouble because it's just their personality. Their personality is they know where they're at. They do what they're supposed to do, and they ride motorcycles. You know, it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. Do you ride, man? Just your dad. But, so that's something to think about. If you're in a motorcycle club and you're on probate, this would be the time example to do something about it, to really show a good example. That's all I'm saying. And a lot of guys miss that. A lot of guys miss that point of, should we show the time as the probate to the other guys that are maybe prospects? Because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, if you're in the club and you were somebody in the club and you got demoted to probate, people are still going to give you a sort of a respect. That's just, it's natural. You can look at anybody that was demoted down. They still give them sort of a respect because it's natural. This guy's been here for a while. So I'm going to treat him a certain way, even if he doesn't have that ranking anymore. Now, when it comes down to it and he starts acting a certain way, they may have to pull that on him and be like, hey, I'm full patch, you're not. Okay, You haven't earned that back yet. You're still under this probation for a certain amount of time. Back off. And kind of my persona is, I understand the hierarchy of a club. And people will say, well, you follow all these rules and you're supposed to be an outlaw, you follow all these rules. There's a hierarchy set up for people, and that's the way it's always been. You go back to cavemen, there was a hierarchy. You go, like one of my friends says this all the time, he says, if you go to like Peru, to a fishing village in Peru or something like that, and there's a hierarchy there to this day, and it'll be the only guy in town that's got a pickup truck. You know, like it's a fishing town, and this one guy's got a pickup truck. Guess what? He's in charge because he's the only one that's got a pickup truck. And that's the same way in life. If you're in a club, motorcycle club, there is a hierarchy. There always will be. If you're in a bowling team, there's a hierarchy. There always will be. We as men are hierarchical. It works. It always has worked. It always will work. So you could say, well, you're supposed to be outlaws and don't follow rules. Well, yeah, if you all want to just fail, you've got to have a little bit of stability. You got to say, okay, this guy's in charge. This guy knows what they're talking about. We'll follow them. We respect them. That's the way it goes. And so what you've got to understand is, if you don't get that, then when you get down to probate, now's your time to learn. And if you can't learn as a probate, you just don't need to ride in a motorcycle club. You need to go to RC. You need to go to like maybe the hog riding team for Harley or whatever, where they just show up and ride together. Something like that may be more your speed, because you're not good at listening. And even then, you may not want to ride in a group, because if you can't do that, then you can't listen to people riding in a group, and you may not want to do it because you're going to put all them in danger. You're riding down the road, you got to listen. Hey, we're going left. Hey, we're going right. Hey, we're slowing down. Hey, there's something in the road. Watch out. If you can't do that, then you don't need to ride at all. I'm just saying, motorcycle riding is dangerous. And if you're riding in a group 18 inches apart, parade style, you know, doing 70 miles an hour or faster, you may want to pay attention. That's all I'm saying. If you can't do that, maybe this ain't for you. Just saying. But there's a lot of people out there who get their feelings hurt. And that's funny to me, because outlaw motorcycle riders are supposed to be the toughest of the tough. Now, in my experience, there's always somebody tougher. I know. There's always somebody tougher. But they'll get in this situation where they'll get in trouble and they'll just throw a fit. Just throw an absolute fit. I'm a probate. What are you saying? How's it going, Dakota? I started this. I did this. Yeah, but you're a probate now. And that guy, he can be a probate too. And that guy, he can be a probate too. And I can be a probate too. I can get kicked out just like anybody else. I could have to come back later on after a certain period of time and try again. That's something that people really don't understand. And some people don't understand how long it takes to prospect. You might prospect for a club for maybe 2 years. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to ride around with a prospect patch on for 2 years while everybody else is a full patch? That shows dedication, man. Are you willing to do that? Not a lot of people are. And now there's some people that are shorter. Let's say you did everything you're supposed to do. You maybe used a little bit of nepotism. You did a little bit here and there, and you got in it in 7-8 months. Hell yeah. But Now you have to understand where you're at. You're full patch now. There's responsibilities. Everywhere you go, everything you do is scrutinized. And you may not care, but you need to understand that people walking around in society don't understand you, and they never will. People on here don't understand motorcycle clubs. They don't. They are outside the club looking in, and they hating. They don't understand it, and they're scared of it, because a bunch of guys getting together talking is scary. What are they doing? Where are they going? Why are they doing that? Well, they just, That's how they get to acting, because they don't get it. And that goes for anything, especially for motorcycle clubs, though, because they like to throw that little 4-letter word in there every time they're talking about motorcycle instead of club. And that's because they don't like it when guys get together like that. You're saying that these guys get together and they make plans and they ride around on their motorcycles, they hang out with their friends and family, they do things together, they go and meet up with other clubs, socialize with them, they go do things with them, they go down here and do this, and they're doing all these things. Something's wrong, because they should be doing everything every day for society. As a bunch of drones, they should be just as lame as you are, and they should not try to be outside the box. They should just be lame like you. And that's something that you have to understand. And you can always tell, because if you start talking about this kind of stuff, they'll get really triggered and get really emotional and start using a lot of words, and they'll start just bombarding you and trying to get your attention and begging for it. And as a motorcycle club member, you just don't care. You don't. Because I can get right on my bike and drive away and never see you again. But that is something to think about. Like, you're already in a club, you're already outside the norm, so maybe don't be so sensitive. Learn. When you're in a probate, learn from the experience. And you'll just have to understand that. If you can't, then you just don't need to be in the club, and you don't need to waste people's time being a probate. You know what I mean? Just don't waste people's time being a probate. Just opt out. Just ride on the weekend. Just being a weekend rider. Because also being in the club, something you gotta understand, unless you can really find some really good brothers that you can be friends with in and outside the club, and that's what I like to think about, like the ones that I'm with now. I know that if I wasn't in there anymore, we would still hang out. But there's certain aspects to the club that you don't get when you're not in it, and that's just the way it is. Like I said, hating from outside the club when you can't even get in, you know? So, yeah, Dakota, I know. But it is really funny. You'll see how emotional people get for no reason. And just like this other guy was saying the other day, he said his dad told him that if somebody's doing something and it doesn't affect you eating, breathing, or living, why do you care? Think about that one. But I hope when you guys are prospecting and probating and everything, you really understand why you're in it. You know? You got to understand why you're in it, or else it's not going to matter. Because especially in probate time, when you're in trouble, And you gotta you gotta be following the rules, because now you've got a microscope on you. When you're a probate, you've got a microscope on you. Now you were somebody, and you're in trouble. You know? So if you don't do something in that time to show people that you're doing better, that's where you're gonna get in trouble. Oh man. But only time will tell. If you go through that process, the next thing you got to understand is when you're in probation, there's a time period where you're in trouble. Okay. There's a time period where you're in trouble, and then when it comes around to that period being over with, then you can pull up to a vote in the club to be reinstated as a member. Okay. Now, in the meantime, when you're probate, you can get in trouble again and have time added on. That's something too. So it can just keep going if you just keep screwing up. And that really makes people mad. Imagine you're in trouble and you got in trouble again. And now you've got time added on. But people are really watching you when you're in that time frame until the time is up to get voted. And they can't add on time. It's not a democracy. Okay, it's a motorcycle club. Nobody's better or worse than anybody else. You can get in trouble just like everybody else. But once you get voted, this way you go to a vote and you get voted back in. If you're an officer, a lot of times, unless that guy just steps down and lets you vote right then to be in that position, you're going to have to be voted in, and then you're going to have to go for a separate vote to be voted back in an officer. Now you got to deal with that. Because what if you get voted in as a member again, and then nobody wants you to be that officer? Then what do you do? To me, I'm different because I don't need that. So if I went in there, I probably wouldn't even think about it until somebody said, hey, you need to be so-and-so position. I'd be like, really? And they're like, yeah, we think you need to be, we were talking, we think you need to be in that position. I don't know. And then research it. And then go from there. You know what I mean? And there'll be some people that'll sit there and go, I want that position. I want that guy's position. I'm going to do whatever I can to get that guy's position. And they will snake you, and they will undercut you, and they will backstab you, and they will behind the scenes politic you to get that position. That's the worst kind of person to have the position. Because once they get it, it's going to be all about them, the show about them every day. Every decision they make is going to be about them looking good. Not about the club, about them looking good. And that's bad. You look at history of motorcycle clubs, anybody that did that, a prime example, people's going to get their feelings hurt about this, a prime example is Sonny Barger for the Hells Angels. You look at everything he did, it was for Sonny Barger. And he was so big in that club that he got away with it until he didn't. And then he would just scream and rant and rave until he got his way anyway. That's signs of a pathological personality. If you look at Steve Jobs, they said he used to do the same thing. He would get in there and he would be talking to them about the iPhone. If something was wrong, he would just start breaking stuff, just throwing things around, breaking things, screaming at people, just being deranged until they did what he wanted. That's a pathological personality. They're usually very successful, but that's signs of a pathological personality. And they're very dangerous because they will have people deal with you. Do not take them for granted. Do not take them lightly, I should say. always make sure that you've got something set up for you to deal with that situation, because it will arise. All of a sudden, you'll be standing in front of everybody and he'll be saying, this POS did something, something. I think he should be voted out of the club. And then nobody will raise their hands for you and you'll be voted out. That's what will happen. You've got to have your plan backed up for those kind of people. Don't show your hand with those kind of people until you've got something going on. But if you guys get any questions about motorcycle clubs, now's the time. If you've got any things you want me to talk about in the next video, now's the time. Just let me know in the comments. I'll write those down for next time. I have a real interest in motorcycle clubs. I love motorcycles, and I love the camaraderie of motorcycle clubs, because going and meeting other clubs, when people tell you, oh, you got to watch out for these guys, you got to watch out for these guys, and then you go in there with a general respect, and literally there's 6 or 7 clubs and they're all nice to you, that tells me that maybe it's about the personality that you have sometimes. Like, don't go in there and just assume everybody's going to be great to you, but don't be an a-hole. If you're not an a-hole to everybody, they tend to be nice to you. And if they are an a-hole to you, sometimes it just takes you, stand your ground, and they leave you alone. But having connection in this life is very important, and being connected to other clubs and being nice with their clubs and being friends with the people and the connections they have is very important sometimes. But I hope you guys like the video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you watch all my videos, and I will see you guys next Sunday. Okay, bye.